there, YouTube. This is Jessica G. Quinto. I'm the author of the debut novel Stand Up, Fight Back, which is a young adult murder mystery with supernatural elements, and it is available on Amazon. Today I wanted to do kind of a part two of my recent reads because I have a lot of them backlogged. So today I'm going to talk about 5 more books that I've read in this time frame of January. So far we're going to be at 10. And the first one I wanted to talk to you about was actually one that I was very frustrated with. And this is going to sound very bad for me because it is from an author I love. And that is Layla Rainey's Relay. This is the first book of her, I want to call it her Olympian swimmer series. It's a duology. And I found out that this one was available on Kindle Unlimited about 2 months ago, and it's been sitting on there for a while. But I started reading it, and I'm like, okay, she does characters very well, so I'm quite happy. I was so frustrated by this one. This one, I ended up giving it 4 stars, and here was the main reason. Because it stars 2 guys, because these are male-on-male romance. This one stars a guy named Alejandro. He goes by Alex. And his former boyfriend, Dane. And they are both on the same Olympic swimming team. And Dane is... I'm just going to preface this and say, I love Dane. I feel bad for what he went through, but I love him nonetheless because he actually was a good character, and I felt bad for him and what he had to deal with. With Dane, he was brought up in the spotlight. His parents basically controlled every aspect of his life, and he couldn't sneeze without his minister father or his TV personality mother breathing down his neck telling him how to act. And that's very suffocating. So, apparently, 10 years prior to the start of this book, he had been at a swimming camp where he met Alex. And Alex is Hispanic. He comes from a farming family, I think in Colorado. And they basically dated. They were a couple for a while. And Dane's family called him up and he left. And Alex never forgave him. You can kind of see where this is going. Well, fast forward 10 years, Alex is now the captain of the Olympic team, and he has 1, 2, 3, 4 other guys, plus Dane, on his team that he has to now look out for with the coach's help. Well, because he has not gotten over Dane walking out on him, he does not treat Dane with any kind of compassion or anything. He treats him like he is dog poo on his shoe. And he does not stop anyone else from treating him like he's dog poo. Except for one of the swimmers, who's the youngest swimmer on the team, who actually treats Dane with respect that a normal person deserves. But Alec, as the team captain, can't be bothered to make sure that the other team members don't ostracize Dane. He just lets them do whatever the fuck they want. So it was so frustrating. And I actually nicknamed this the Dane hate train because it just seemed like everybody was out to get him. And I understand being destroyed. Like when you're 16, it seems like the world is ending when you lose someone that you love. But he's 26 now. I think he needs to get over this, or at least be an adult and deal with this in an adult way. So I was very, very frustrated by this. That and his relationship with his friend Bass, whose real name was Sebastian, and I was kind of like, why? Why do you name him Bass? That's neither here nor there. But the relationship between him and Bass kind of seemed more like he wanted a relationship with Bass versus a relationship with anyone else because they were so close. And Bass actually made a comment that it's like, my mom is going to be really pissed off at you that you took Alex away from me, but I guess she'll get over it. And I'm like, that's weird. To me, that was always weird because I've been in situations where it's like you're friends with someone for so long and people just automatically assume that you're gonna date, but it's like, no. Why? But again, that's neither here nor there. But I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I still loved it because, again, Layla Rainey is my queen. And I was just so frustrated by the amount of hate that Dane got up until they went out and decided to call a truce. And for basically like a microsecond as far as the story goes, they were fine. And then Dane had to once again follow his family, and the hate Dane train came roaring back into the station. I was not happy. And it did not stop until, of course, Dane decided to finally out himself, and it's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm done hiding who I am. I'm done trying to please my parents and do what they want me to do versus what I want to do. So he finally just stood up for himself and for this man that he loved, especially because there was someone who was trying to sabotage Alex. So I will say that, once again, Layla Rainey's ability to actually craft a story was good, and it kept me reading, but there were several points when I was like, do I give up on this? Because I was to the point of tossing my phone across the room because I was so frustrated by the amount of Dane hate on this one. But I powered through it. I gave it a 4-star. I know it's not going to be a 5. I know it's not going to be a 5. And I know it's not bad enough that it marks a 3, but I was seriously I was really considering quitting because I actually complained to both my husband and one of my best friends that I was frustrated with this book. But anyway, now on to books that were actually 5 stars. And the first one is actually Off Base by Annabeth Albert. And this one is the first of her Out of Uniform series. And this one I've actually read twice in the month of January because, as I said in my previous video, I had read it first in the beginning, and then I found out there was a spin-off series that kind of explained a couple of characters. So I basically just went to those ones. But this is my most recent read of it. And it actually is in chronological order. Now, this one follows a guy named Zach, who's in the U.S. Navy, and a guy named Pike, who is a college professor. And Zach you previously meet in, I believe it's Connection Error, when he is in the hospital with Ryan, who is one of his friends, and he basically plays up the idea that he's straight, and he is vehemently opposed to being called anything else. And Pike is friends with Josiah, Ryan's boyfriend, and he is very flamboyant. He's known as a flirt and kind of a flake, but he's ultimately a good guy. And Zach is immediately attracted to him, but of course, because he's vehemently saying that he's straight, he's not allowing himself to even entertain those thoughts. And that comes from his very strict religious background and the fact that his parents would never accept him, which is unfortunate that this seems to be a running theme in them, but I do like that it is a constant theme that a lot of people have to deal with because that is something that happens in real life. Anyway, this one deals with the fact that Zach has been getting harassed by another Navy SEAL named Cobb, and who has found out that he actually is attracted to men and is now harassing him for it, blackmailing him and forcing him to do things that, it's like, this is your job. He actually knocks over a bag of, I think they were doing inventory on base, and they knocked over a bag of rope and, I want to say couplings for some kind of item. I can't really describe what it was because I read it just recently and I kind of just skimmed over that part. But he basically made more work for Zach, and he just constantly pushed him and pushed him and pushed him into hiding himself because he didn't want the rest of his team to find out, because Cobb made several comments. It's like, do you think that anyone's going to have your six if you come out as being a fairy? And that was something that Zach was truly terrified of, and he actually had good reason. He had great reason to fear, and it almost cost him his life, and I was so pissed by that point. But anyway, he decides he's going to get out of this situation by moving off base into I think it was his, like, commander's rental property that he was going to renovate. But he's not very good with DIY. Pike, on the other hand, is needing a place to live, and he's very good at DIY. So he moves in to help him. And, oh boy, when I first read this, I was kind of bored with it. Because I was like, okay, these guys are kind of strange, or, like, they're not meshing well, and Zach's obviously not trying. But then I got to about 20% on the audiobook, and I'm like, whoa, we just frickin' zoomed into attraction territory, and I was like, whoa, what did we just get into? Because it's literally, out of nowhere, Zach has this moment of, I need Pike right now. And he literally accosted Pike coming out of the shower. And Pike, of course, is all for this. And he's like, okay, I have questions, so let's get some pants on and please talk. Because I actually want to discuss what just happened. And it was just so funny. Because I gotta say, if you listen to erotic novels on audiobook, it's like, even if you're just sitting in your house listening to it, it's like you're hearing someone literally, like, dirty talk to you. But if you're out and about, it's even more hilarious, because it's like, if someone could hear what is going on in my ears right now. It's absolutely hilarious. But I did really like this one. The first time I read it, I actually gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. But then when I reread it, I actually gave it 5, because my original complaint was that Zach held on to the idea that he was straight for too long. But then when I actually read it, and I remember things that happened, he didn't hold on to it for very long. He accepted the fact that he was gay pretty quickly. But it was him not wanting to accept the fact that Pike was anything other than an experiment at this point. And by the end of the book, he does finally deal with Cobb. And honestly, I think Cobb got off very lightly, and so did his friend Harper, who nearly let him die. I think Harper got off extremely light. I don't think anything actually happened to Harper, because he nearly let Zach die on a mission. And I was just frustrated by it, and I agree wholeheartedly with a lot of the Goodreads reviewers who said that Harper got off extremely lightly, and so did Cobb. But again, I give this now 5 stars because I did like how it went. So I highly recommend it. The next one that I read, this one I actually had to wait a while for the audiobook and the ebook to come in from the library. And I also had a lot of technical difficulties when it came to actually reading it. And this is called Detention, again by Annabeth Albert. And this one follows directly on the heels of Off Base, because Detention deals with a character that you met at the very end named Apollo Flores, who is a lieutenant. And he is a widower with 2 twin daughters, and he now gets the summer where his mom is going to Greece, because he's Grecian, and he needs someone to watch over the girls in case he has to work, which is quite frequently. And his best friend, Dustin, says that his little brother Dylan, who Apollo knew as a child, and he grew up basically with him because he was best friends with Dustin. And, of course, Dylan had a crush on Apollo because he's just freaking gorgeous. He's got that bad boy look with the dark hair, dark skin, and just rough voice. So Dylan was obviously just infatuated with him. Well, now, fast forward years later, Apollo is still huge, still gruff, still dark-haired, and still gorgeous. So, what's a guy to do? But Apollo doesn't want Dylan around for many reasons. One, he can already tell that he's interested in Dylan. And being a widower for only the last 2 years, he's feeling extremely guilty about already wanting someone. And a lot of people are telling him to move on. And I kind of had the same problem with Agents Irish and Whiskey when it came to Aiden missing his husband Gabe, because that was only 8 months and everyone was already telling him to move on. And it's really hard for a person to move on, especially when they've lost someone, especially to death. It's like, how do you get over that? You get over a breakup if it's mutual, but if they just die while you're still in love with them, that's a whole other kettle of fish. This one I felt like he should have moved on a little bit easier, or at least a little bit more than where he was, but I understand that it was hard. And I do tend to look at Goodreads reviews, especially like negative ones, to see what they bring up as far as points that I should be aware of, especially for trigger warnings. But with this one, a lot of people were saying that they were frustrated by Apollo's stubbornness for not wanting to make a full relationship with Dylan. And I was kind of in that same boat too. And then there was a scene that just literally broke my heart. Because when I listen to these sometimes at night, I'll have my husband sleeping and I'm like, well, I'm still awake, so I'll listen to my audiobook and like do something mindless, such as like play Minecraft. And I'm sitting there playing Minecraft and this scene comes up. Basically, Apollo has pushed Dylan out more times than he can count, and Dylan has finally taken the out, and he's not there with him. And Apollo's cleaning up the downstairs bathroom where they had shared several intimate moments, and he finds his wedding band from his husband that he still wears 2 years later, and he remembers that his mom, who is also a widower from his father, would talk to his father on occasion, even though he died when Apollo was very young, and just kind of air out grievances. So he's standing in the bathroom, holding this ring, and he starts talking to him. And he tells him, it's like, everyone is wanting me to admit that I'm upset, that I'm sad, that I miss you, which I do, that I should also move on, but I'm so angry. I am so angry at you for leaving me. I could not admit a life without you. I was so moved by this scene. I literally stopped playing Minecraft. I paused it and I just sat there and I cried because it was so heart-wrenching to listen to Apollo just fall apart talking to his husband. And I still get kind of misty when I think about it because it was just so hard to listen to. Because I've felt those kind of things. I haven't lost anyone to death or anything, but I remember that anger. I remember that kind of rage when it's like, I want you here so I can yell at you, but you're not. And it's, calm down, it's okay. But it was just so good. I'm like, I have to give this 5 stars. And that's ultimately what propelled it from what it had been like a 4-star because of the stubbornness to a 5-star, especially how he fixed things with Dylan. He had his 2 daughters who I think were like 5 or 6. And what he did was he had them unroll a big tarp that said, "Will you marry our Baba?" which is Greek for dad. And they showed it to Dylan. And they basically asked, "Will you marry our Baba?" And it was just so cute and so touching that they were the ones asking, even though Apollo was there and wanted to ask him to marry him. And it was just the sweetest thing. I loved it, and I was so happy that I finally got through it. The next two that I have is actually two novellas from Annabeth Albert. The first one is Off Leash, which follows Zack and Pike. Both of these actually handle both Zack and Pike, their relationship. The first one is actually Off Leash, which deals with them going to Zack's first Pride Festival and kind of navigating their way through that, because of course Zack has never been to a Pride Festival and he's now embracing that life and his life with Pike. And it was just a really cute story of them finding out, it's like, how they handle it, because by the end of it, Zack decides to get a tattoo with a rainbow on it, basically signifying, it's like, you know what, I'm out, I'm proud, I have a man that I love, and I'm not afraid to show it anymore. And then with the other book, Homecoming, which deals with Zack coming back from a deployment, both him and Pike ended up getting hurt, which is what led to Zack coming back early. And they just have kind of a scuffle about it. They fight about it a little bit, and they make up, because it's one of the shorter ones. But again, it's cute how they ended up dealing with it. And I gave these both 5 stars because I just love these two because they're just so adorable. And it was just cute. That's all I can really say about Homecoming, because it was just adorable. And those are my recent reads for this video. I will do another one in a few moments just so I can get a backlog going. Sure to subscribe, leave a comment down below if you'd like to talk about any of these books, and I'll see you all in the next video. Keeping fabulous. Bye-bye!